And who do we have here today? None other than Troy Johnson, founder and president of the African American Literature Book Club. He's going to speak to us today about cultivating culture, my 25-year journey of online success. Let me share a little more about you. Troy is the founder and president of the African American Literature Book Club, which is the largest and most popular online platform dedicated to books by and about African Americans. Since its inception in 1997, AALBC.com has grown into a major resource for readers interested in this genre, offering a wide range of content, including book reviews, publishing information, author profiles, and a platform for buying books. Johnson has created a vital space that supports and promotes African American literature, an area that's been historically underrepresented in mainstream publishing. By doing so, he helps to increase the visibility of African American authors, support their works, and fosters a greater understanding of the African American experience through literature. Additionally, he's considered a thought leader in what he refers to as the Black book ecosystem, which encompasses the network of authors, publishers, and readers who are involved in the creation, dissemination, and consumption of African American literature. His background in corporate technology and education, as well as his qualifications in engineering and business, have allowed him to create a sophisticated and sustainable online business model that's had a lasting impact on how African American literature is accessed and appreciated. Through AALBC, Johnson has not only provided a platform for authors and readers, but it's also built a community that contributes to the cultural and intellectual wealth of the African American community. Indeed, Troy, we are pleased to be able to have you here today, and we look forward to hearing about your entrepreneurial journey. Tell us your story.
Wow, that was a terrific introduction, and I really appreciate the opportunity to speak with you and your audience. As I was saying early in this program, I started this website as an experiment. And but before I get to the website, I had a 20-year career in corporate America. I worked for companies ranging from General Electric to Goldman Sachs. I was an independent consultant with PricewaterhouseCoopers, and I spent a lot of big portion of my career chasing bigger salaries. And when I first got out of school back in 1984, and my first job was $25,000 a year, I was like, all right, good. If I can make 50, I'll be happy. And then when I made 50, I was like, all right, if I make 100, I'll be good. And no matter how much I made, I was never really good. And so I did spend a lot of time going to different companies, working a wide variety of jobs, and going to school. And one of the things that I later learned about going to school is you often learn one of the biggest lessons that you learn is to how to work for someone else. And so a lot of my education, I guess how it helped me is by teaching me a wide variety of things, but it did teach me persistence. When I went to undergraduate school in engineering at Syracuse University, we got that lecture, look to your left, look to your right, only one of you will be here when it comes to graduation. And I looked to my left and to my right, and I was like, I don't know about the rest of these folks, but I'm definitely going to be here. And it was difficult, but I made it. When I was again, I worked for a variety of companies, always made a decent wage and had decent jobs, but I never really felt fulfilled. And when I was in business school, right before I started working on Wall Street, I started selling computers, and I decided to build a website to promote that business. And when I created that website, and I did put a link to it in the chat, I realized, this is what I want to do, is build websites for other companies. And one of my clients had a site. She liked it. She sold hand pressed flowers, and she made a variety of things with these pressed flowers. And she was selling them on the web, but she wasn't making much money selling things on the web. And so, she asked me to discontinue hosting her site. So I decided at that point, let me try to figure out how to make money or how to engage in e-commerce. And so I decided to build a website, and I set up a site as an affiliate for Barnes and Noble, which at the time was the premier website for selling books. And I chose books simply because I thought it was something that I could easily sell. So I would pick some books, put them on a web page, people would click, and I would get a percentage of that sale. But as soon as I set up the website, a whole world opened up to me. And, I was discovering books and ideas and authors and writers that again, these are things that I just simply wasn't aware of. So I became really passionate about what I was doing. And I realized immediately that's what I was missing from all my other jobs, was that passion. And that passion was fueled by the fact that I was just learning so much about Black history, about the diversity in our culture, about, just a wide variety of things. And I want to share that with the rest of the world. And I stopped building websites for other people. And this, so in March of 98, I launched AALBC.com. And in 2008, it became my livelihood. And I'll run this site until it's over. But, when I first started the site, I never would have imagined it would be my livelihood, one. And two, I never imagined that it would become an institution. In other words, live beyond me. And so that's my goal. I want this platform to persist, even when I'm not no longer could be part of it. And so, it didn't start out. I didn't start out planning that, but it grew from that. So my passion and the support of the community is what helped me along. So as Joe mentioned earlier, you can't be an entrepreneur without persistence. You obviously have to have an idea that's viable, and money does help. I didn't fund this. I didn't get any investors, and this was all self-funded. When I started the website, I was in business. Actually, I started it technically after I graduated. So I was working, and the business was self-funding. It was a sideline. It was just something for extra money, And over time, as I started to grow the site, I just put more money into it. One of the reasons I actually, left New York and moved to Florida was to really lower overhead, so that I can continue to fund the business. And so it's a struggle in that sense, but again, is very, very rewarding. Some of the other things that I'll talk about, and each of these things that I will talk about could be a book or a college course by itself, but I think they're important to mention because it does impact how I operate a business on the web. And some of those things include artificial intelligence, Google, social media, Amazon, the World Wide Web itself, independent websites, entrepreneurship, the notion of buying Black, the impact of monopolies, and of course, booksellers. And again, all of these things work together on the web. Today, I started the website as an affiliate of Barnes and Noble. Today, I fulfill my own book orders. As Joe mentioned earlier, I publish book reviews, articles. I actually publish resources to help other booksellers. I have a very popular list of Black-owned bookstores that I've maintained for the last 20 plus years. And the reason I maintain it, some people might think is counterintuitive in the sense that why would you support your competitors? But the reality is that over the years, I've seen a great reduction on the number of Black platforms on the web. And the web really isn't a substitute for brick and mortar stores. They should complement brick and mortar stores, and we need more of them. So the reason I promote Black websites, Black brick and mortar bookstores is because I believe in their mission, and I believe they need to be supported. And the reason they're maybe not supported on the web as much as they used to be is because of the incentives that have been created by Google, which is a segue into Google. Google was a search engine, is a search engine, and in my opinion, is probably one of the best search engines. There are others. Um, DuckDuckGo is one that I like. Bing is one that I use. I use Bing because they give you micropayments for every search query, and over time you could get gift cards and other things. So if you don't know, Bing actually pays you to use it. But despite that fact, Google far and away dominates search. And because of Google's dominance in search, they literally control the discoverability of websites. And Google can make mistakes. So when I said that Google was the best search engine, in terms of pure search, they're great. But over the years, they've used their dominance in search to promote their own products. So, for example, if you go to Google today and do a search on um, African American books, when Google first launched, you would get a list of book websites. Today, you know, everything on that page, on that above the fold, will be ads or Google's products. And because of that, Google has, they're generating a lot of money through those ads. And most of those ads will be Amazon ads, which we'll talk about momentarily. But what they've done is monetize the search engine results page and are making a lot of money doing that. But at the same time, they've devalued or they've marginalized the websites that produce the rich content that we've all, at least up until recently, come to enjoy. So it's difficult for people to appreciate that who haven't been on the web, for 30 years. But it's a much less rich environment than it used to be. In the quote unquote old days, we would there were a wider variety of book websites. There were book websites dedicated to really niche genres. There were websites that were dedicated to specific authors that were deep and rich. But because of the way Google uses its search engine results page, those websites are largely undiscoverable. Another thing that Google has done is they have, before Google and before search engines came around, websites would link to other websites. So if you would come to AOBC, you would discover other book websites because you would come to me and say, oh, here's another website, and you would visit other websites. And when you would go to those websites, you would often be shunted off or linked. There would be links to other websites. And Google came around and they built a search engine that used links in order to rank websites. So if a website got links, a bunch of links inbound to it, that site was voted up and considered more valuable than a site that got fewer links. And so Google would rank higher sites that got a lot of links into it. And then they would in turn look at the sites that were linking into those sites. And so they came up with a really sophisticated algorithm to rank websites. And as a result, when you went into the search engine, you would find sites without having webmasters or people who created websites have the burden of managing links. But when search engine optimizers or people who attempt to rank high on Google search engine results, they discovered that they could build bogus sites or they could engage in a variety of link schemes to fool the Google search engine so that they would rank higher in search. And again, because Google is so dominant, ranking high on a Google search engine result is extremely important. And if you ignore Google's mandates about what you should do as a good website, you will simply get buried in search. So as Google has tried to combat what we call black hat SEO folks, the people who are using underhanded tactics to rank on search. Google is constantly playing whack-a-mole trying to deal with these sites. And so one of the things that Google has done is penalize websites that link to sites that Google deems as being inferior. And as a result of that, many webmasters simply don't link to other websites. Now, there are ways that you can link to other websites such that you say, don't follow this link, or I'm disavowing any vouching of the quality of this website. But it was just simply easier for people not to link to each other. And that in turn increased the dominance or the need for search engines like Google. But at the same time, the discoverability of websites and Black websites in particular plummeted. Now, running a book website in this type of environment takes persistence. And it's not just a matter of understanding and appreciating your content and creating quality content. Now you have to contend with search engine optimization. And that's a really challenging task because, again, when I say search engine optimization, I really should say Google search engine optimization. And if you ignore that, you do it at your peril. So one of the reasons that the African American Leadership Book Club has been able to, thrive, make it, and every variation of struggle, thrive, is because I pay attention to Google's mandates. Now, I don't pay attention to their mandate about linking to other sites. I will link. I've never stopped doing that because I think that's crucial for the survival of websites that I think that are important. But at the same time, it's the challenge, and it's it's probably as important as the content that you generate, and that's unfortunate on the web today. You should be able to have someone build a great site with terrific content, and in the ideal world, the search engines would reward you accordingly. That's not true. So, we can talk about, social media. When social media, before websites was really popular, there were companies like CompuServe, America Online, that created these proprietary websites, standalone walled garden websites. So if you wanted to go to CompuServe, you paid them $9.99, or I think it went up to $19.99 a month for the privilege of accessing their platform and using their email and looking at their content. And that was great because nothing like it existed before. But over time, people weren't really happy with the conditions that these platforms required their participants to adhere to in order to participate. Again, it was AOL, and they could decide what you could do, what you could say. They had complete control because it was their platform. So when the World Wide Web opened up, people were really excited. That finally I can create exactly what I want with all the content, and directories popped up that would link to sites. It was a really exciting time because content was coming out of everywhere, and it was really a terrific and joyful experience. And one day social media came along, and they actually recreated the walled gardens that we saw from the past. And platforms, you had to create content exactly the way they tell you to, and you built the audience within their platform. Now, they weren't charging you, but nothing is free on the web. And despite people saying that information wants to be free, no, it doesn't. It's just the corporations that run and control information want it to be free, but information is very expensive. So if you're not paying for the content you're consuming on the web, you're paying for it in another way. And another way that you can pay for your content is by giving up tremendous amounts of information. And social media, unlike the AOLs, they have monetized and profited tremendously from mining and using your information and using your information in ways that don't serve you and using your information in ways that undermine even your mental health. We talked about Courtney Vance's book, and white men are killing themselves at greater numbers than ever before. And you would think, well, wait a minute, the people who benefit the most from our culture and the inherent racism and the structural racism, the people who are benefiting the most from that are committing suicide in greater and greater numbers. Why? I would suggest, like, I won't prove it, but others have suggested that social media is part of the problem. And I'm really glad I didn't grow up as a teenager in a world that has social media, because I know as an adult how it can affect you. And we all have stories, and we can all talk about how social media is beneficial, and I can too. But I don't think net at the end of the day that it's been a net benefit to us the way social media has become perverted, in much the same way that Google search engine has been corrupted. Again, you take a great search engine that help you discover great websites, and you turn it into an ad revenue generating machine. And you take social media that help you connect with friends and family and learn about things, and you've turned it into a machine that's designed to keep you engaged in the platform by any means necessary. If it means hacking into your brain and serving you up the video or the content that's going to keep you engaged, whether or not it serves you is profoundly disturbing. And it's to the point where many don't realize what's even happened. And so one of the other impacts on social media is sucked all the air out of the room, in the sense that for many people, the World Wide Web, this massive and terrific platform, is a handful of social media sites. News is consumed on social media for many people. They install it on their phone, and they spend more time on their phone scrolling through social media feeds, almost addicted. And some people are actually addicted to social media. And it's not their fault. It's the design. It's the way it's set up. Social media is designed to keep you engaged as long as possible. And again, that engagement comes at the expense of other things. And those other things might be things as simple as reading a book or visiting another website. And when you look at that increased engagement and its impact on people's well-being, we're not getting a great deal from it. We're not getting the best deal. Our time commitment and the time that we spend on social media is not resulting in commensurate benefits with that time. And so if you're operating on the web, you have to appreciate that you're actually competing with platforms that are optimized, and our best and brightest are going to work for these platforms. Where in the past people may want to be a doctor or change the world or cure cancer. No, a lot of these, our best and brightest, want to work for social media platforms or Google. And so you have to appreciate that. I can give you a number of anecdotes, and I'm looking at time, Joe, make sure that
Oh, you're doing just fine.
Okay. All right, great. So I'm going to go back to Google for a second, because there's an interesting thing that I noticed back in 2011, and we're talking about more than a decade ago. Google had a algorithm update called Panda. And what Panda did was look at websites, among other things. They looked at websites that had similar content, and they would basically devalue entire websites if they were using content that was used elsewhere on the web. Now, Google hasn't made an announcement about this. They're extremely opaque about how their algorithm works, but this is a result of observation and research that others have done and I've done on my own. The In the early days of the web and before the web existed, there was this thing called there was syndicated content. Basically, a writer would write something and it would be pushed out to newspapers all over the country. And that's great because newspapers got content. They typically paid less for it than if they paid for unique content. But if you're in a market that no one else is publishing that content, great. When we moved that model to the web, initially it was great too because webmasters like myself was able to use this content, and I published reviews that was written by someone that was also being published in newspapers and other websites. So for the publisher or the author of those books, that was great because your content was widely distributed. Now along comes a bad actor, a web a business entity that created websites that were dynamically generated. They created bogus, or they created virtual newspapers purportedly for different markets. I don't know, the Portland Examiner or the Tampa Tribune, and these were all dynamically generated using syndicated content that ALBC was using. Not only the African American Literature Book Club, but many Black-owned independent Black-owned newspapers. And when Google got a hold of discovered that this content was being used, this bad actor was pushing this content out to, I don't know, dozens, probably scores of websites. And Google said, all right, all of you guys are bad actors. We're going to kill you in search. And in 2011, ALBC's traffic fell off a cliff overnight. Most of my traffic comes in from Google search. Again, because Google is the main way people discover websites today. And so so it wasn't just my site, it was every single Black-owned newspaper that I tracked. So I have a list I also promote Black-owned newspapers. If you Google Black-owned newspapers, I believe my list will still come up. But the profile was the same, sites falling off a cliff. And it took my site 5 years to recover. Many websites never recovered. Many websites gave up, they Google without any repercussions and apparently without even noticing, like stepping on a bunch of ants, no repercussions to them, no accountability, nothing. And it was a mistake. And if anyone over there cared enough, they would see that. But again, it took my website literally 5 years to recover.
And what did you do to recover?
I just stuck around. I mean, when you lose 75% of your traffic overnight, what that does do is it impacts your ability to generate revenue through ads, particularly ads that are based on the number of impressions. But no, I just continue to plow through. And in fact, that was, I was working the website full time now. So it had a material impact on my revenue. And, in fact, did I start teaching then? Yeah, I picked up a sideline gig. I was adjuncting and doing other things. But no, I kept with it because, again, it is a business and I have to make money. But I would do this for free. And so the struggle, I use the word struggle and battle and fight, but it's why I get up every morning. It's something that fuels me. And it's not just that. It's the feedback from my community. It's the people who tell me they appreciate what I do. It's the people who tell me, I discovered this great book. I talked to people even recently, like, the publisher of Invisible Ink, they're sponsors. And, people come to me and say, hey, I discovered this book on your site. It's really terrific. Yeah, and despite being on Oprah and having all this publicity, there are still people who are unaware of this book. And if I can help share stories like um, Courtney's and others, that's a terrific thing, you know. And again, that's the thing that motivates me. So I just plowed through, there's nothing I can. I do know one business that said, you know what, I'm going to delete all of that content that Google is penalizing me for, and that's a site, and it didn't help. And my perspective was like, look, I paid for the content. It was legitimate content. It's valuable to the website. I'm not going to delete it. If Google doesn't like it, it's it's a hard thing to do because Google's like, all right, we're going to bury you in search, and we don't care. Now Google makes mistakes, and then they fix them, and they make more mistakes. I think it's a real mistake for them to use their search engine as an advertising vehicle. And in fact, the government may ultimately do something about that, but it makes their website, that makes their search engine experience far worse. And indeed, it made the World Wide Web worse. So if when I talked about information wanting to be free and it not being, the consequence of that is our websites that are polluted with advertising. I mean, how many websites have you gone to? Some of them reputable brands where you go from one page and ad pops up, or you launch another page and a video starts playing. You can't figure out how to click it, and ads are popping up all over, obscuring the view of the content. That's driven largely by YouTube. I mean, YouTube, another Google property, but it's driven largely by Google. Google is the number one ad serving platform on the web. But if it's not Google, there are others that serve up content, ads that appear everywhere that, and most of them are titulating, scandalous, you know, uh, you'll never believe what this actor looks like now, or 10 different ways to, do whatever. You know, those ads lead you to articles that never live up to the promise, but they keep you clicking, and they're there because they work, and they have really corrupted the World Wide Web. And so it's, in an ideal world, one of the reasons why I use, and I don't want to be a commercial for Bing, but I just use them, not because they're a better search engine, but they're good enough. And, every month or so, I get me a $10 gift card to go buy something. But, it's the web is really, it's how it's been perverted. It's sad to see because, again, no one could ever predicted the World Wide Web would be corrupted in this manner, dominated by literally a handful of ultra powerful monopolies. It's one of the reasons why, and can't quote where I got the stat from, but income inequality is worse now than it was in apartheid South Africa. It's worse now than it was during the Gilded Age in this country. But you would never know that, and largely because information is so, my worldview can be completely different than yours because I can go online and see a completely different, because the web is now some social media site. My social media feed, the thing that I'm not trying to get information, it's just pushed in front of my face. Is the reason why when you go to any social media platform, the first thing you see is the feed, and that feed is to engage you. And you might go to, I don't know, Instagram for something, and an hour and a half later, like, oh my God, what am I doing? And again, that happens because by design.
You've been hypnotized.
You literally been hypnotized. And if anything that they can do to engage you, so again, they got the world's brightest minds trying to figure out how to keep you engaged another millisecond on some social media platform. And it makes what AI brings really super scary. So we talked about social media, and I don't think I have enough time to even get into Amazon because we want to leave it open for questions. But I'll talk briefly about AI. All of the things that I mentioned, Google, social media, when they all started, they were great. But just they were just perverted, by greedy people trying to make more and more money every year. AI is amazing. This, probably in all my time online, it is other than a smartphone, maybe, it is the most remarkable thing I've seen. Maybe second, or perhaps, I might feel differently next year, far more impactful than the smartphone. And the smartphone is like walking around with literally a supercomputer in your pocket. The compute power of this thing is greater than what a crazy supercomputer was, 25 years ago. It's amazing. But AI is, I use AI every day. I use open AI app for everything from writing code to writing content. It's unbelievable. I can, it's expanded my productivity in ways that I could not have imagined a year earlier. In the sense that I can tell it to write scripts and Python code and craft HTML and pull data from APIs and, just basically say, hey, go to the API, pull this data, format it this way, bang it into this database, and write the code to generate a web page to display it. So that's exciting, but it poses an existential threat to people who run websites. Because if I can just tell it to do that, someone smarter than me can tell it to, hey, while you're at it, build this entire website using AI, craft original images, create original videos, create original content, and have at it. And so people like me will have to figure out a way to handle that or to utilize it. And, but it's no different than it's been for the last 25 years. So it's in this, let me rephrase that. Over the last 25 years, you've had to adapt. You had to adapt to the introduction of search engines and SEO. You had to adapt to the introduction of social media and social media marketing. You had to adapt to, as an e-commerce platform, you had to adapt to Amazon. If you don't, you will die. Same thing with AI. But I think that compared to Amazon, social media, and Google, AI poses a much bigger threat because it's coming in hard and fast. I just can't even, right now it's just a powerful tool. Tomorrow, I don't know how it's going to be used. 5 years now, unimaginable. But if it follows the trajectory of everything else that we have seen, better watch out. We have to be careful. And I don't think we're going to be as a culture because we're too greedy. We just want, the impression is that, well, if they don't do it to make money, then I'm going to do it. And if I don't do it, someone else is going to do it. And it creates this, like, not a virtuous cycle.
Vicious cycle.
A vicious cycle.
And,
yeah, so we have to look out for that.
Well, Troy, you make some excellent points, especially in this whole conversation about AI, because like you said, you've always had to adapt in the online world. And in terms of adapting your business and how to figure it out and how to persevere. In this situation where it comes with AI, I think it's incumbent of us, especially those who are doing business online, is to be able to learn how to master AI and incorporate it and use it. Because just as it can be a real obstacle, if you just keep doing the things the way you're doing it, yeah, it's going to, slow you down. However, if you can ride the wave of it and learn it and how to adapt and use it, then you're going to be ahead of everybody else, because not everybody's trying to learn it the same way, but how you do it in your business makes a huge difference. One thing that in fact, just last night, I just saw a great promotion or a video on YouTube that was saying, hey, we found a great website that will build your website for us. It was a hosting company, but here's a great hosting company that offers to build your website using AI. and does it great. And in fact, I actually got some software myself that does create quizzes based now on AI. And so it was an upgrade from what I had before and builds a whole website for you so simply. So the key is not just watching and waiting and like, oh, how it's going to take it away from me, but jumping in and learn how to use it. One great thing since you're running your huge website is that AI can help you improve your SEO without having to hire SEO experts.
Right.
Is that something that you've done yourself?
No, not yet. One of the things that I'm working on now is a website overhaul. And for the next few months, it's going to totally consume my time. Up until recently, every single thing on that website for the last 20 years, I created myself. I wrote or used code from other places, and I built it from scratch. And I've done that for the last quarter of a century. This website upgrade, I've hired a design team to help me bring this website into help it scale. But no, so I will absolutely do, one of the things that you suggest. It's like there's AI can be introduced at every single point. But one of the other things that AI can't do is be a human. And, it doesn't, it can have a personality, but it can't be Joe Dudley Jr. It can't be Troy Johnson. And we have to infuse our humanity. We have to make sure that we maintain that, and we have to make sure that people still value it. And I think that's one of the things that we're going to have to do. And we also have to, don't forget about the real world. I mean, one of the best things about my site is it's helped me meet a lot of great people in the real world. And, that's going to be, it's going to be humans versus the machines. And right now, the machines, ooh, we have to make sure that we utilize them and not have it the other way around. But that will be a challenge, and that will be the challenge. That will be our cultural challenge. And as with many things, when white folks catch a cold, black folks get pneumonia, so and all these things that I mentioned, I think black folks have been more adversely impacted than other groups. So again, I sell books on the web, but being active on the web has forced me to reckon with all of the things and more that I've mentioned. And at the same time, I keep track of content, write review, so it's a lot of stuff, but I enjoy every minute of it. But you're right, we have to embrace AI. Um, we have to, and it's not going to go away. We got to figure out how to use it, and so I agree with that point.
Fantastic. That's great. And obviously many of us are, like, oh, AI and finding challenges and things like that. So partner with somebody who may understand how to do it. You may not have to learn all of it, but you can benefit from it. Even if you don't learn it yourself, partner with somebody who can best take advantage of it to help you be able to improve your business, improve your operation, be able to improve your things. I mean, I've gotten into it myself recently. And like you said, increase in productivity is so much, especially when you're trying to write something, when you're trying to increase your creativity. It does it so fast and so well if you know how to set it right. So
Yeah,
it's amazing in what it can do for you. So if you get on the road or get on the wave as opposed to the wave crashing on you, learning how to ride the wave is what you get for success versus
yeah,
crushed underneath the wave.
yeah. If you go to Chat GPT, it will actually teach you how to use it. Really, so just speaking about that specific one, which is the one I typically use. It it's based upon prompts. You can ask it questions. You can have it do a wide variety of really creative things. And but it's just keep asking questions, follow up questions. And apparently the way it works is it traverses different parts of the learning algorithm depending on how the prompts are crafted. So I often ask the same question more than once or different ways because I'm looking for a better answer. And the more you know about a subject, the more useful a tool is. because it will what they call hallucinate and give you faulty information. Like it gave me a lot of code the other day, and there was one line that was off, but I was able to look at it and see where it was wrong. And I'd said, "Oh, you made this mistake. I fixed this line here." And it comes back and said, "Oh, great," and then it remembers the corrected code. So when you ask for different updates, it will spit it out. But again, I would encourage everyone to look at it and play with it. I mean, that's the easiest way to learn. Just play with it because again, it will actually help you in terms of you can ask it how to do better at a specific task. And in fact, I use AI for search more than I use Google now. So in the past, when I had a technical question and I would go to Google and type some technical question, I just go to ChatGPT and it spits out the answer. So, and it's pulling information from the rest of the web. So this is another thing that's going to really marginalize websites further, unless you figure out ways to produce content that OpenAI can't do. It can't, like this video that we're doing right now that you've recorded. ChatGPT can't do that. Well, it could, but it would be all conjured. Ultimately, it will be able to, with AI, craft this and produce this, but which makes it scary. So right now, what we're doing is still advantageous, but next year, 10 years, it it this will be able to be created from some AI tool. So in that world, how do you survive? I don't know the answers, but I one thing I do know is that we will need to work together to come up with those answers. Um,
Right. And so that's the value of being part of a network. You trying to figure it out all by yourself is too hard. It just really is. You just know the problem you want to solve, but you want to have people in your group who can help you figure it out. And so you can do it collectively versus just individually. And that's a great secret to that. Before we go forward, and I'd love to start hearing some questions from the audience. Love for you to be able to raise your hand and I'll be able to call on you to hear from you. Troy, tell us at today, how many books do you have, on your site, and how are you able to get people to promote it effectively moving forward?
okay, so the number of books, there's approximately 20,000 books. One of the things that I'm looking to do with the website upgrade is to have a complete list of all of the Black books published, not just the new ones, but going back into history. So if you look at the website, you'll find books from the first Black book published to the last one. I want to fill that out. I want to be able to say that, for example, X number of Black books written by Black writers were published in 2024. How does that, and that compares with 2023. In this way, there were this number of Black books. Here are the number of Black books, Black romance authors. Here are the books. Here are the ones that are the best, or the most critically acclaimed, the ones that we reviewed. So I want to become a complete resource for Black books. That doesn't exist. Publishers themselves don't really have that information. And if anyone that does have a piece of that, they're not sharing it. So I want to capture that information and continue to report on the impact of Black writers on our culture. The other thing, so hopefully that answers your question, in terms of that's the number of books, but I want to grow that to be an exhaustive list.
Well, how are book sales? I mean, unfortunately, like you said, Amazon dominates so much, but in this category, how are book sales in terms of what you're seeing, as well as the amount of publishing that is occurring?
Well, as I said before, Amazon does have the lion's share of book sales. That's just the reality. We're in a world where when Michelle Obama produces a book, Amazon can sell it for 70% off. So they will do that, and it would be irrational, really, for me to even tell a reader not to get to buy the book from them and save the money. There are other reasons why you wouldn't do that, but you know, take the win, in that particular book. Now, in terms of book sales, with the exception of 2020, I could not have survived off the sale of books alone. Most of the website's revenue is through advertising. And most of the advertising are ads that I sell directly. So my goal is to really be immune to Google, to Amazon, because I was originally a Barnes and Noble affiliate, then I became an Amazon affiliate, and Amazon flipped the script in the sense that they dramatically reduced the affiliate commissions. So they had this program where they were really aggressive in attracting affiliates. And once they got all of these people selling books for them, then Amazon ripped the rug from underneath us. And to the point where it didn't even make sense for me to send people to Amazon. And indeed, I stopped. And that's when I started selling books directly. And it was the best thing that I ever did, because now instead of making, Amazon gives you like 4% on a book sale, so now I'm making 40% on a book sale. So, my revenue per book sale has gone up by an order of magnitude. In 2020, during the pandemic, when George Floyd was murdered, the amount of support to Black booksellers was tremendous. And in June of 2020, I sold more books in that month than I did the entire previous year. And that George Floyd's public execution, just hit the country in a visceral way, and they just want to buy Black books, support Black booksellers, and people did. And that lasted several months. So book sales have slowly declined back to the old steady state. But I wouldn't make. Well, it depends. So my main revenue generating is ad sales. So and I try to base that on things that I can control. So I have a newsletter. The newsletters are super helpful in the sense that they're typically sponsored, and no one can control. Google can't control my mailing list. Now they can control the traffic to the site, which is how I capture emails when people sign up. But that does well. But once I have the email address, I have it. It's not like Facebook, for example, where you build a tremendous audience and then overnight Facebook tells you, we're not going to allow you to engage with your audience. You're going to have to pay us to do that now. And they did that, and they made it public, and that's exactly what they did. So as my user or fans increased, my engagement went like this. And then even when I paid initially, it never got back to the way it was when it was organic. So my organic reach was much higher in the early days of Facebook than it was for me paying to play, because they just want more and more money. And it's untenable. I mean, I'm selling books. I'm not making 40% on a $20 book. It's not a ton of money. I got to sell a lot of books. And so for them to really dominate, it's one among many reasons I actually don't use social media for personal reasons. Yeah, I have a presence on most of them for business reasons, but I've virtually opted out for personal reasons. And that's part of the reason. It's just I feel like it's not serving me, in that fashion. But people sleep on newsletters. They're super powerful. People have basically stopped building websites. They are right now still powerful. So there are a lot of old school strategies that we've kind of given up on because, we kind of bought into the idea that social media is the only thing that you can do. And we see how, we last longer than social media. I mean, we saw what happened to Friendster and MySpace and now Twitter. it, just it's just what happens. Facebook is nothing like it was when it launched. Now it's for people like you and me and young people off doing something else. And so you can't, we have to own as much as we can. We have to own what we do, and we have to support what we own. And otherwise, all right, Amazon will be the only place you can buy books or discover new ones. And I don't think anyone really wants that. Um, Not anyone who's thought it through anyway. I think that a world in which one vendor controls the discoverability and sale of books is not a great one. Monopolies are bad for a reason, and I don't think most people understand why monopolies are bad. But no, we're not served well by all these monopolies dominating the web, and so I'll stop there. I think I answered that question about 5 minutes ago, but any
Well, you're doing fine. Share it.
all
All
right.
right. Well, fantastic. What a wonderful thoughts and things. Love to hear comments or questions from the audience. Love for you to be able to raise your hand. Would love to unmute you, or you can put your comment in the chat, and we'll see if we can share and read from there. Tell us about the books you put in there.
All right. So actually, I linked to a bunch of articles that I've written over the years. Um,
Oh, that you wrote. Okay.
primarily from my blog that goes into kind of more detail about some of the things that I discuss. One of the articles I wrote had to do with Wikipedia. You know, Wiki, you don't hear a lot of talk about Wikipedia nowadays, but it's still pretty powerful. So, but in the world of AI, maybe not so much, but we'll see how that plays out. So Wikipedia is a free encyclopedia, and free in air quotes, because again, nothing's free. So people would volunteer to contribute content to Wikipedia, and Google search engine ranks Wikipedia super high in search. So as a result, Wikipedia had become one of the most popular websites on the web. And so Google had started to use Wikipedia and monetize it. So in other words, they would Google in their search engine results page would, if you Google a particular author, Google would throw up a book, and it'd be Google's books, and they would have a description of the book, but that description of the author would be pulled from Wikipedia. But they weren't the only ones. Facebook was using content from Wikipedia. Amazon, a bunch of what Goodreads was using content from Wikipedia. So you have all these super profitable organizations using Wikipedia widely. And then people are going up there and, keying in stuff and not getting anything. And then Wikipedia has the nerve to ask for money. Because again, nothing is free. They got to pay for servers. They got to get the money to maintain this platform from somewhere. But the idea that people would freely contribute to Wikipedia, and then that information is being used by the likes of Google to make money, just defied logic to me. But it's worse than that, because Wikipedia, and the article that I linked to, in it, I described this as author named Zane. Zane writes erotica. Zane is the top selling author on my website from, maybe 10 years ago. I mean, today, no one else has sold as many books as she has. So, she's she's an incredibly popular writer, New York Times bestselling, AOBC bestselling author. Books have been turned into movies. She's had an incredible impact on books. So one day I noticed when I did a search on Zane, Google had thrown up this content about her being a tax cheat. It was like the first thing that came up. I was like, what's that all about? And then I saw that it came from Wikipedia. So I went to Wikipedia and I was like, of all the compliments, of all the accomplishments of this woman, this is the thing that you highlight, Wikipedia. So I went into Wikipedia, I added some other stuff and moved the stuff about the text. I depreciated that because that's who knows it hadn't even been adjudicated yet. I don't know what was going on, but it shouldn't have been the first thing used to describe this woman. And so the editor came back and changed it back. I went in, changed it back. And you can't beat the editor, so I just stopped. But then I looked at the history and I saw that I wasn't the only one who did that. Someone else had attempted to remove that scandalous content away from, de-emphasize it. And so I can see that Wikipedia is biased, but it wasn't just that one author. I noticed the same thing with an author named Terry McMillan. So Terry McMillan is probably one of the most popular Black authors. She writes all, I'm sure most of your audience have heard of her, but when you do a Google search on her, it was all you saw was, her gay ex-husband this, her gay ex-husband that. I was like, come on now, what? Why do our authors have to be presented in this way? And it's not that Google's sitting around, how can we demonize and portray these women, in the worst possible light. It's just that they don't give a crap. And so their search engine is highlighting because their search engine really is not really to give you the best search results. It's to keep you there. So the scandalous content ranks high because, you know, I I could speculate all day about Google's motivation, but at the end of the day, these two women were treated in ways um, that was just unacceptable, but it was built into the fabric of the way the web worked, and it's wrong. And but there's nothing anybody could do about it, and that lasted for years. And ultimately, if you do a search now, the scandalous stuff is still in Wikipedia, but it's not front and center, and it's not being utilized in the same way. But for years, damage was done, and I don't think even those authors themselves appreciated it. Even if they did, there was probably little they could do about it. So and we deal with this. And the other issue is that we don't really have anybody talking about this. We don't have, I mean, we don't have any daily Black newspapers anymore. We have very few indie newspapers. Most are weekly. I've always subscribed to at least one. Right now I'm subscribing to the Afro, the oldest Black-owned newspaper in the country. I think that we should do that. I learn something in that newspaper every time I read it. We have to support our own platforms. Otherwise, we will be lied to. And, we see that now in the way that, I mentioned earlier how two people can go on the web and get two different feeds and come away with two completely different worldviews because of the way the algorithms work is not to inform you, but to keep you engaged and keep you angry, to appeal to the reptilian brain and bypass the prefrontal cortex and just appeal to your baser emotions. And that's again,
That's what keeps you hooked and keeps you hypnotized. And so no
yeah.
question about that. Well, Troy, love for you to be able to share some closing comments for the audience.
All right, closing comments. Visit the African American Literature Book Club. We're going through throes of an upgrade. So spread the word, let other people know, and don't just visit the African American Literature Book Club. Visit other websites, visit other Black-owned platforms, support them because again, unless you want a world where the World Wide Web is literally just Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, then just visit those platforms. But if you want something a more enriching environment on the web, then support other platforms. Buy books. Right now I haven't checked yet, but I don't think I'm gonna check right now to see what Amazon is discounting the visible ache. But right now, unless the book is being shipped to Florida, there's no sales tax. There's a 15% discount. And if you're a part of a book club and you buy more than three, is it 30? If you buy more than three, the books will be shipped to you for free. And so that's on par. I realized one of the first things I learned on the web or as an entrepreneur is that people aren't going to necessarily buy from you just because you're Black. You do have to provide some value. On some level, I would almost argue that you almost have to provide a bit more value, because it's not a level playing field. I cannot compete with Amazon on price. No one can really. And if you decide to buy a book from me, you're buying a book understanding that. So where I can't compete with Amazon on price, I will try to. But at the end of the day, if they're discounting the book 70%, I can't afford to take a loss on a book sale. And so the margin, when I discount a book 15%, the margins are really thin. So, I can make up for that with more sales. But Amazon's motive is to eliminate the ability of entrepreneurs or small businesses to scale on thin margins. Their goal is to put you in a situation where you're making less. So and they have executed brilliantly. Amazon is probably the smartest company on the web, despite all other stuff that I just said. They have executed brilliantly. They might be evil geniuses over there, but I've been watching them since they were invented, and it's just amazing how they've cornered so many markets and even gotten people to pay for the privilege to buy from them and created this perception that they are the lowest price seller on anything. And they're not. I got many anecdotes where something as mundane as water filter. Went online one day, like most people, you start your online search not at Google, but on Amazon. So you go to Amazon and you're looking for refrigerator filters. And I'm like, this is too expensive. I almost pulled the trigger and I said, you know what? There's a world wide web out there. Let me go search on the web. And I found a vendor sold the original equipment manufacturer water filter, Samsung. And I was able to buy three for what they wanted one on Amazon for. And then Amazon also now they manufacture almost anything. They manufacture that same refrigerator filter under their brand, Amazon Basics. But again, I was able to find the thing a lot less expensive on the web, and I ordered three of them, and I benefited a result of that. So don't be fooled or lulled into the perception that Amazon is the lowest cost vendor. They are where it's strategic. So they're going to deeply discount the most popular books because they're the most popular books. And so you go there, you buy the book, and then you're going to buy whatever else you need, toner cartridge for your printer or Windex or whatever else you're buying. You're going to buy it because they created the incentive by charging you this Prime membership to buy from them. So you stop questioning prices.
The key is, and we have to be intentional in choosing to do business with you. And that becomes our focus and what needs to be. Because, there are many other ways to get things. But yes, choosing you is a choice. And it's up to us to be able to make that. Deidre, you had your hand up. Love to hear your comment or question.
Hey, everyone. Well, my question was, since we were talking about the AIG, right? Do you feel that it would be better optimization to have a website created using that now, or just continuing kind of how the websites have been created at this point? Because I had someone who actually, we were talking about that because he works on websites, and he was asking me about using one of mine to be like a model. So in a way, helping him while we're also helping develop mine. And so I just wanted to kind of get your opinion on that too, as far as like the optimization of that and moving forward, especially, sorry, let me move my window if I had the pull over, I was driving. The optimization of that, moving forward, especially since that's something that's really going to be being used, and it's being used now, but probably definitely is going to grow in the near future.
Yeah. There's so the quick answer is I don't know for sure. However, there's this idea of creating a website with AI, and there's this idea of optimizing the website for search using AI. They're two different things. So using AI to optimize for search, good idea. I don't see any downside to that. Using AI to create content, I would do that, but then I would go in and, I wouldn't use it straight away. I wouldn't use it just take copy and paste. I would, modify that content because there's a lot of discussion about, even Amazon, for example, is saying that they don't want, or they want you to, because they can't determine this, but they want you to disclose if you used AI to write a book. So you can write a book using AI, and then sell them on Amazon to make money. They really don't read books. They're not like AOBC that's going to read books or have people review them to look for this stuff. But you're going to see you already have seen a number of artificially intelligent, AI generated books on Amazon. And so they do what they can to try to combat this, but they're going to be really challenged doing that. Now, as far as a website, I would say I would use it as a starting tool, but then you would have to infuse it with your personality and, make it unique. And, I've gotten reviews submitted to me, at least one that I'm convinced was written by AI. Because I'm on AI every day, I could tell. And then I, asked for it to be rewritten. But it's the future. We're going to see, teachers are going to be challenged by this. So the quick answer to your question is for search engine optimization, yes. For content generation, use it as a starting point, and then try to improve what AI has generated. But in terms of building a website, yeah, use it to start off to create something to start with.
All right.
I would
Thank
if
you.
I was starting out.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Hi,
All
this is Irene. I have a question, if it's okay.
Please go ahead.
Awesome. So, Troy, I think that you shared a lot of great information, and you know what? Now you have me questioning the word information, because you hit it right on the head. You said information is not free. So, there's a lot of things that's telling you, oh, get this free. And in the back of my mind always goes to, what's free? I'm looking for the sale behind it, because I know that that's just one of the lure words to lure people in.
Right.
And I like everything that you disseminated today, because I'm one of those persons, and I tell people, I'm like, man, I'm a dinosaur. And so, people are like, don't tell yourself you can get social media, you can do these things. And it's a part of me like, I don't even want to go that route, but I do understand that the greatest scheme of the world is using that platform to sell. And I just like wonder, like, why is it that those things that Madam C.J. Walker and J.B. Fuller and Joe Dudley, why aren't those things able to work in the community in which we live anymore? And I just believe that it can. We have to take a stand to do something different. I like it that I'm gonna check out your website and see, because yeah, like you said, Mr. Joe Dudley Jr., we have to decide doing business with each other. We have to be intentional if we want to, because no, I can't afford to do the things that those bigger companies do, give you those incentives, gives you those discounts. And, so we just have to be intentional intentional about doing business with one another. So yeah, I appreciate you, brother.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that as well. But also keep in mind that one of the things that one of the benefits of you give companies a chance to grow. So, initially, yeah, we can't utilize these tactics that a much larger company can utilize. But over time, with support, we can. And, so again, it's not going to be that way out the box. But again, you support because you're developing, you're helping to develop a business. There are companies out there, investment companies that give startups all types of investments. And Joe Dudley Jr. and you guys may know more about this, but there are literally organizations that are funding startup companies with some serious money, to fund an idea, giving them, hundreds of thousands, thousands of dollars, a 1-2 year runway, and giving them a chance to grow and to pivot and to learn and develop. We haven't, Black folks meaning, haven't taken advantage of that as much as that we should. And, and part of that is just lack of knowledge that these programs exist. And again, I'm sure on this platform, you guys have talked about venture funding and things of that nature. But other organizations get this kind of stuff, and we should too. So
I
I think,
definitely want to find out more information about that, just because being I'm a 26, 27 year um business owner, and everything that I do, I have to do grassroots and just kind of, every dollar I make, I got to touch it. So definitely
yeah.
trying to catapult from that.
Well, I'm a 25-year-old business, and I've been able to take advantage of some of these programs that are out there. There's a program that I work with most recently called Builders and Backers that provided some level of funding for my business, and have provided resources and tools that I've taken advantage of. There's another company called Lightship Capital, and there are many others. So that's something that we should be sharing and talking about, because those organizations do provide funding to, even if they're builders and backers. These are companies that provide funding. Some of them are regional builders and backers. I connected with when I was in Tulsa. Worked in Tulsa, Oklahoma for a year and a half. That's how I connected with those folks. But again, there are others. So you can still sign up for them, network with them. Joe spoke about the importance of networking earlier. You can't do this stuff alone. That's one of the lessons I've learned kind of late. I was so used to working alone because there's really no one else doing what I was doing. And no, so now that I've opened up, and start working with more people, I've learned a lot. Working in an office environment rather than my home has been beneficial to me, because I learned a lot about businesses. Maybe they're not doing what I'm doing, but I've learned how they do what they do and how that can benefit my business. So, just being in an environment with other people is super helpful. And so I would definitely encourage that.
Troy, we do have another question.
All right.
Robert, you have your hand up. Love to hear from you.
Yes, I'd like to first thank him for a great presentation. He's really light years ahead of me in this particular area. But my concern, I was wondering, we are getting into political season now, and using artificial intelligence, is there any chance that we'll really be able to know what's going on if they're going to use this artificial intelligence? Is there any chance we really be able to see and know the person that's talking?
Yeah.
The concern with deep fakes. The concern
Yeah.
with deep fakes, yes.
You should be. I mean, so this is why it's such a profound problem. And I'm getting harsh, excuse me. But the reason it's such a profound problem is because it creates this whole sense that nothing can be trusted. And if nothing can be trusted, we're lost. I mean, if you can't trust that what you're seeing or hearing is true, then that makes it very easy for someone else, your enemy, to say that is false, that is wrong. And we're saying that with, we're already seeing that. We've already seen that with, the Trump candidacy, how, when Trump was running, there were people who felt that social media affected the way people voted. So maybe you weren't one who was going to vote for Trump, but the way the social media feed was manipulated by others, it discouraged you from voting. So now you're convinced, well, I'm not going to vote for Trump, but Hillary is not even a viable alternative, so I'm not going to vote at all. And that's a problem. And so now when you have the potential that there are deep fakes and you can't trust what's being said or reported, you're liable to believe anything. And again, that is such a profound problem. And we don't have the answers for it. And I don't think anyone's even looking at it and addressing it. And so this is one of the reasons why I say AI is probably, it's great. I use it every day, but it's a potentially very serious problem, particularly in our political arena. I live in a state where they're banning books. They're banning books of people I know personally. They're banning books of people whose books are the most innocuous. They're terrific little books, and they're playing ripped out of libraries and pulled off of shelves. It makes no sense. But when you consider the information that people are being fed, it makes sense. I mean, you can understand it. And it sounds odd that I would say that understand the environment, but I live in it and I get it. But it's so bad. It's really, I would never have imagined in the world where there's so much technology, we have access to more information than ever before, and we're so woefully misinformed. And so misinformed that we're hurt. We're hurt by the information that we're given rather than being served by it. And it's not our fault. It's just because there are greedy corporations out there trying to maximize shareholder wealth at any cost. And we just simply don't know enough to do anything about it. But yeah, so that question is an important one, and I don't have the answer to it, but it needs to be addressed.
All right. Well, thank you for your comment and your question, Robert. So appreciate that. And Troy, thank you so much for your presentation today. You gave us great insight along your journey, how you've had to navigate, how you have to play against big powers that are not focused on your good, but you still try and navigate effectively through those waters. So we applaud you, we encourage you, and we're here to support you as well. And so we look forward to seeing even more as you evolve. And in fact, yes, we want the audience to be able to support you by getting the Invisible 8 and being able to get a 15% discount for that here by working with us. And so it's information here. Once again, it's here in the chat. We want you to be able to click on that link and go to his bookstore to pick up The Invisible Pain. So you can do that, and that will be great. So thank you so much, Troy, for your presentation today.
I appreciate being here and talking to you all, and hopefully you'll benefit from some of the things that I've said, and I look forward to those orders pouring in.
All right, fantastic. Thank you.